Hi, everyone, and thanks for spending part of your day with us. I am Janelle McPherson, and I am the multimedia editor at preLaw magazine. Right now, we are at the point in the day where we are doing the interview with a law school dean. For the next 15 minutes, we'll be hearing from Dean Verna Williams from the University of Cincinnati College of Law. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dean Williams and thank her for spending part of her day with us. So, Dean, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
And how long have you been the dean at UC College of Law?
I've served in this position for 3 years, but I've been at University of Cincinnati since 2001. So 19 years, 16 as a member of the faculty.
Wow. And so I'm sure you've seen a lot kind of change then in your time at the university, right? Between
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the big thing I think that has changed is that many more students are coming to law school seeking to make a difference in society, which is a wonderful change to see. And it's also really much in keeping with our ethos at the University of Cincinnati. We have long been focused on making an impact and making a difference in society. We were the very first law school in the world to have an endowed institute on international human rights. We've gone from there to have one of the most successful innocence projects in the whole innocence movement, as well as a nationally known Center for Race, Gender, and Social Justice. Even our corporate law center has a focus on social justice with its entrepreneurship and community development clinic. And that clinic has helped countless people of color get businesses off the ground. So it's just really wonderful to see so many more students who are interested in making a difference, because that's really what we're about at Cincinnati Law.
That's incredible. And I understand that you used to practice in civil and women's rights, correct?
Yes, that's right.
And so can you share some of your experience in that area and maybe what a student who's looking to go into that focus area might experience?
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking is that, many things. Working in the areas of civil rights and women's rights was really challenging and really fulfilling. It was definitely, it was really my calling. I worked in a lot of different areas. I think I pretty much hit every sector that an attorney can hit. And when I got into civil and women's rights, I really found my home. And so for students who are looking at that, what can they expect when they get there? Well, they will expect work that's going to call on your creativity, your collaboration skills, your strategic thinking skills. You will also sometimes get thrust into opportunities that you don't feel ready for, because 9 times out of 10, you'll be working at a smaller organization that doesn't have a lot of layers. And so that means you will get opportunities to do things that your counterparts in large practices may not get so soon. So for example, you could find yourself sitting down with a lawmaker, talking about policy. You could find yourself working directly with clients and handling cases. So it's the kind of work that if you really want to get in there, get your hands dirty, so to speak, that's what's going to happen. That is definitely what's going to happen. It will be challenging. Because as I think everybody can see, the legal landscape has been changing in a way that the courts are not necessarily so predisposed towards social justice, which means we have to be all the more strategic and creative. But it's the reward for that is knowing that you really will make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, I bet that's been interesting to
Yes, yeah.
That's incredible. And so how did you decide to go from practicing law to then get into legal education, and how did you become involved at UC College of Law?
Okay, well, I had been practicing for about 8 years, I think. And most of those years had been at the National Women's Law Center, which is an organization that focuses on issues confronting women and their families. And one of the wonderful things about working there was I practiced law in a whole lot of different ways, from working on public education projects, meaning explaining complicated things in ways that non-lawyers could understand, to actually handling appellate litigation. And one of the cases that I handled went to the United States Supreme Court. So speaking of, getting yourself thrust into a situation in which you feel like you might not be ready, that happened to me. I actually argued a case to the US Supreme Court. And one of the things that I realized after that experience was I so enjoyed having the opportunity to really delve deep into a particular legal issues and understand not only my case, but understand where my case stood in the panoply of cases that the United States Supreme Court was considering. And, I started thinking, well, what does that mean? Do I continue looking for cases to argue in front of the Supreme Court? Or does it mean something else? And I have to say, as much as, and as fulfilling as it was arguing in front of the Supreme Court, I didn't think I wanted to do that again. I chose, I wanted to think more about what I had been doing as an attorney with the National Women's Law Center, and to think about where the field needed to go in the future. And teaching legal education really provided that opportunity. In addition, I realized over the course of my years at the center how much I really enjoyed writing. And I wanted a job that would allow me to focus much more of my attention on writing, and legal education provided that as well. And so that's why I decided to go on the market.
All right. And then, so you've been at UC Cincinnati, you said, since 2001, is that correct?
That's right.
And so was it like a natural fit for you when you went there, and it felt like home again, and it was kind of that calling that you had mentioned?
Yeah.
Or have you just seen it evolve and it's kind of become a place that you're now proud to be dean of?
I felt really comfortable right from the beginning. I was attracted to UC because I learned about the Human Rights Center that I mentioned at the outset. But I also learned that it had the first joint degree program in law and women's studies. And for me, it seemed like going to UC would be much more than just the regular teaching job. That is where I teach courses and write law review articles and engage in some surface. I saw this as an opportunity to get involved with the joint degree program and really create a cadre of attorneys that would focus on these issues. And so when I got the offer to join the faculty at UC, I told the dean that I really wanted to come, but only if I would have the opportunity to grow that program. And he said, absolutely. And he was true to his word. When I started at UC, there were a few courses that anchored that program. But there was really not much more. And in the time that I joined the faculty to now, that program has grown to include a clinic in domestic violence and civil protection orders. So our students are representing survivors of domestic violence. It also has a research arm where our faculty go out into the community and work with communities to identify issues and then take their leads from them. It obviously continues to have the joint degree aspect of it as well. It has it had a journal, the Freedom Center Journal, which is now in the process of changing. It's probably a better word, from a print journal to being online. So I'm really proud. I'm really proud of the progress of it. And it became a center. So we have the joint degree now is part of a larger center that's named for Nathaniel Jones, who was a judge on the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. And before that, he was a litigator with the NAACP. And he litigated some of the cases around school desegregation. So I'm especially proud of the Jones Center and that it has the name of this iconic figure, which represents really our values at the College of Law. I felt like, I came in as a junior person wanting to make these changes, and other schools, aren't that welcoming to new ideas, and particularly not coming from a junior faculty member. And some places, junior faculty are encouraged to just keep their mouths shut, until they get tenure. But UC was not like that. I like to say, they knew who they were getting. They welcomed who they got. And, you know, I just, I really appreciate that. I have a real deep connection to UC, and I couldn't be prouder than to be the dean here. It's just really quite an honor and a privilege.
Yeah, definitely. And so you mentioned a little bit about change and adaptation and things like that. So it's 2020. We can't not ask you about COVID and what happened at UC with the COVID and how you guys are adapting, and maybe some like takeaways that you guys will be moving forward with in the future.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, I said that, you know, they welcome the change. I mean, they're for an institution like UC, and in other aspects, it can be hard to make big changes like going online. And that was a discussion that we have been engaged in fact, I think legal education has been very slow to adapt online education. But wow, when you're confronted with a crisis, and you know, in March we pivoted on a dime. It was kind of astonishing to see how quickly faculty picked up the mantle to provide online education, and I was really proud of them for how they carried things out. And then we went to the extra step after classes, after we got through with the crisis level, you know, or triage. It wasn't exactly triage, but anyway, I'll just split the metaphors. After we got through with you know, the first phase of this in March, which would, you know, what we now recognize was the first phase, right? In the summer, I urged my faculty to get training in online pedagogy, because what we were doing was remote education. That is, doing what we're doing now, being on Zoom and interacting that way. But I know, and we all know, that there is a different mode of instruction that is attendant to online pedagogy. And so 19 of my faculty, which is a lot, I have a faculty of maybe 30 people. So over half of the faculty got training in online pedagogy and developed true online courses. The remainder of the faculty learned how to up their game on WebEx and learned different techniques of engaging with students. And so when the fall semester started, the vast majority of our courses were online, and we had a hybrid set up for the ones that were in the building. And so only 20 classes are actually in our building, and those professors who are face-to-face with students are teaching students in the building, in the classroom with them, but simultaneously streaming to students that are remote. And that's been very challenging, very challenging, as you can imagine, from a technological standpoint, as well as from a pedagogical standpoint. I mean, how do you integrate the comments or questions from the students who are remote? How do you make sure that the students in the classroom are speaking in a way that everybody can hear them? And we heard from our students that it was so difficult and challenging that what we've decided is to go 100% online in the spring. And so more changes afoot. We'll have more training for students. But with the pandemic, what we've learned is that we can do this online education. We've got 19 people now who really know online pedagogy, which means we can provide more opportunities and we can reach more students in other places, which I think is a plus. We've also learned how to engage with our alums. We've continued to connect our students with alumni, which is important for us. Because we want the students to feel, I mean, we really value our community, and we recognize our community is not just, you know, in the building. You know, obviously, even when we can't be in the building, we've got to do things to, you know, make sure that people know one another. And so we've been able to do that, and we've connected them to, I think, a broader range of alums, because now that we're all doing everything virtually, there's nothing stopping us from connecting to alumni that are in Alaska or California or, you know, in Europe, which is, I mean, we have alums literally all over the world. And so that's been a benefit. So I think that when it's all said and done, you know, there's so much that we have learned, and we will benefit from really having expanded our web.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never know how big an alumni network is kind of until you start pursuing it and seeing all the doors that it'll open. So that's incredible.
Yes, yes.
Are incorporating that. And I know recently UC College of Law got a Best Value Law School Award from preLaw magazine. And we've touched on it a little bit, but do you mind just kind of talking about, why you think that is and what sets UC Law apart from other area law schools?
Sure. I think what makes us, there are lots of things that make us the best value. One is that our students are graduating with debt levels nearly $80,000 less than the national average for public and private schools. U.S. News has ranked us as the nation's third most affordable law school. And we're located in a large Midwestern city that's also very affordable. Last year, the U.S. Bureau of Economics said we had the lowest cost of living of any major metro area in the U.S. But more than that, you put those things together with the fact that we have a top flight faculty, we have a small school, we have a vibrant alumni network. And what that means is that students who come to UC are not just going to be a name on a seating chart. They are actual people that will get to know their professors, they will know the staff. They're going to have lunch with their dean. They will have alumni as mentors. And so it's much more of an interpersonal place. It's a place where, we are all dedicated. We are united in our mission to be student-centered and to focus on the success of our students. And with our faculty, our staff, and our alumni, we can do that. And so you're getting, for this money, an incredible experience, a personalized, somewhat personalized experience that will allow you to choose the career that ignites your passion, or that is consistent with your passion, instead of choosing a career to chip away at a mountain of debt. And that, I think, is something we are really, really proud of and dedicated to making sure stays the case.
I mean, I'm not in the market to go to law school, but you just about sold me with that. So I can see.
Now, come on.
Well, and I know that you went to Harvard Law.
I did.
So we are often posting stories about managing stress and, just different articles and advice to get through law school. But being in your successful role now as a law school dean and having practiced and being an Ivy League graduate, do you have any advice for students out there who are interested in attending law school?
Yeah. I think the first thing is really focus on why you want to be a lawyer. Make sure you know why you want to do this. In years past, people went to law school because it's a really broad degree. It's kind of like a graduate liberal arts degree, and they figured they would land somewhere. But I think that the experience of law school is so much better if you know why you're doing it. And I say that because, sometimes law school, sometimes it's really great. You get in there and you're engaged in a really active conversation, provocative, you're thinking about things in a completely different way. And it's exciting, it's wonderful. And then there are times when you're reading about, cases or areas of the law that are just so arcane, or maybe they're just so difficult, and you think to yourself, oh my God, it's the crushing workload, I'm not going to make it. You need to know why you're there, to keep your eye on the prize. Like, I just need to get through this. So I'm saying up front, you won't love every minute of it. I know this. You will like, if you really want to be a lawyer, you're going to enjoy the most of it. So reflect on why you want to be a lawyer. And focus on building a strong academic record, because being a lawyer really requires strong skills like critical thinking, argumentation, writing. In fact, I should say writing first. Get a major, or if you've already chosen a major, make sure you're taking courses that will require you to develop or refine your writing skills. They're going to be absolutely essential to your success in law school and your success as a lawyer. Good writing is a lawyer's bread and butter. take advantage of opportunities to get to know attorneys. So if you can job shadow or conduct informational interviews, get some experience through an internship in the law field, that's really going to be helpful to you. One, it'll help you really know if that's what you want to do. There's no better way of finding out if the law is for you than getting a sense of what it's like from real lawyers. Real junior lawyers would be great because they are closer to the experience of law school and they can give you some inside information. My experience also is that, as you can probably tell, lawyers love to give advice, so you shouldn't feel shy about asking them. And as a practical matter, if you still want to do this, you're definitely down for this project, apply early. This year, our priority application deadline is January 15th. And if you apply on or before that date, there's no application fee, so you can apply for free. And for those of you who are interested in coming to Cincinnati, please, I invite you to call and talk to our admissions staff. They have a wealth of knowledge and they want to help you. So just a few pearls of wisdom, I like to think. You can also feel free to email me. I do talk to students, people who are thinking about law school, particularly thinking about Cincinnati Law. I'm happy to provide any or answer any questions that I can, or direct you to people who can answer those.
And I really liked what you said too about knowing your why. I feel like not only in law school, grad school, things like that, but just life in general, that's just a really good way to keep centered. And, so I appreciate all your insight and knowledge that you've shared with us today. And I want to thank you again for spending some time with us and taking all of the questions that I had and running with them and giving us all your advice. So
it's my pleasure, Janelle. Thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to do this. This is fun.